Hello, learners. Welcome again to our session. I am your instructor, CPA Ringo Frederick, and today's class is a continuation of what you were doing earlier on. Recall, in our previous class, we had talked about the aspect of course, decision-making process. So in our class today, I want us to talk about decision-making under different conditions. You'll find that in our day-to-day operations, of course, there will be conditions where we'll be required to make decisions. And these conditions are not constant. They normally tend to change each and every time. So you as a financial manager, you as a manager, general manager in the organization, you'll find that you'll face various situations or various scenarios where you'll be required to make the decision. And basically, in this case, you normally tend to look at environment of decision making. So looking at environment of decision making, my good students, you normally tend to talk of the following environment. That is, of course, number one, it is environment of certainty. Environment, I'll be explaining all this, talk about environment of certainty or condition of certainty. Talk about environment of uncertainties. Environment of uncertainties. Talk about environment of risks, and talk about environment of competition. Environment of competition. So these are the environments where we can always tend to face anytime we are making our decisions. So to start by environment of certainty, basically what will it entails? Environment of certainty. So talk about environment of certainty, environment of certainty. So anytime you're looking at environment of certainty, my good students, you'll find that under this environment, all the conditions are known. That is to say, the state of nature is known, whereby I know very well if I can take this decision, probably, if the state of nature, of course, it can either be high, moderate, or low. So when I make this decision, when the market is high, this is what I'll be expecting. When I'm making this decision, when the market is moderate, this is what I'll be expecting. When I'm making this decision, when the environment or the market is low, this is what I'll be expecting. So you'll find that basically it purely depends with aspect of, in this case, you normally tend to say that the decision maker or the management is aware of the outcome in whichever environment or in whichever state that they're going to make their decision, because at this point you'll find that all the conditions are known in advance. So it will just be upon the management to choose the best alternatives. It will be upon the management to choose the best alternative, simply because at this point we know the outcome of whichever decision that you're going to take. So of course you're going to take a decision that will maximize the benefit of the organization depending on their objectives and goals. So that's why you're talking about environment of certainty. Talk about being certain of something. You are very sure of something. That is what you're terming it as what? As environment of certainty. Conditions are known in advance. So the task of the management will be just to select the best alternative. That is what you're talking about, the condition or environment of certainty. Talk about number two, environment of uncertainty. Number two, we are talking about environment of uncertainty. Environment of uncertainty. So what will this environment entail, my good students? The environment of uncertainty will entail conditions that managers are not aware of, and at the same time we can't allocate probabilities of occurrence to this environment. In that, I'm just there. I've never experienced this. So in this case, I can't even allocate probabilities on this state of nature. State of nature, basically, these are possible occurrence in different aspect of stages in the market. It can either be high, it can either be moderate, or it can be low. So under environment of uncertainty, these are where the managers, basically, they are not aware of what they can expect regardless of the decision that they're going to take, or depending on the decision they're going to take. They are not aware. And because they didn't have, or they don't have a previous experience, at the same time, they can't associate these conditions with probabilities. So I'm just flat like that. So at this point, you'll find that it will purely depend on the risk attitude of the management. It will purely depend on the risk attitude of the management. Now, at this point is where you can kind of differentiate the managers who are risk takers, because anytime you're talking of risk attitudes, you must always recall these risk attitudes. Number one, risk attitude, you normally tend to talk about a person who is a risk taker. Number two, attitude, a person who is a risk averse. And number three, attitude, a person who is a risk neutral. So, under this environment, it will purely depend on the risk attitude of the investor. If this investor is a risk taker, of course, they are going to make decisions that will attract a lot of risk. And of course, you normally tend to say the higher the risk, the higher the returns. Like, for example, a very good example is what happened in 2020. That was a black swine event, an event that will not be erased in our memories very soon. And in that case, whenever we're talking of 2020, what will come at the back of our mind is the aspect of business closing, people losing their jobs. Talk about aspect of economy, it was economic elapsed. So you'll find that a lot of things happened in 2020 simply because of whatever thing that happened, the aspect of the variance that no one had even anticipated it. So you'll find that at this point, managements or other organizations were faced with a very delicate decision, very delicate or rather window of making their decision, because at this point, they don't know what will come next. I can't ascertain probabilities because it has never happened. So you'll find that depending with the risk attitude of the investors, if they were risk taker, let us keep on pushing. Let's keep on pushing. We just come up with a few strategies and we'll keep on going. A risk adverse, this is a person who will be like, now that the market is very bad, what I'm going to close my business till things come back to normal. Maybe it's when I'm going to resume back. But this is business. You'll resume when things have really changed, right? Talk about risk neutral. This is a person who will be there. Should I continue with this business? As much as I've retrenched almost a half of the workforce, should I continue with this business or should I not continue with this business? This is a person who is just kind of 50-50. Should I or should I not? So you'll find that this is that environment that we're talking about, environment of uncertainty, a very key element that we must also consider. Another environment that again should click at the back of our mind, you're talking about environment of risk. Environment of risk. Environment of risk. Talk about environment of risk. So basically, environment of risk, you'll find that at this point, the state of natures are known. The state of natures, of course, are known. State of nature is known. But in this case, you'll find that, or rather is unknown. The state of nature is unknown. The state of nature is unknown because you're looking at risk. State of nature is unknown. The state of nature is unknown. But because of previous experience, we can allocate probabilities. We can allocate the probabilities of occurrence. You can allocate probabilities of occurrence. At this point, yes, I don't know the state of nature. It's very uncertain. But what we can do is that we can allocate probabilities simply because it is something that has occurred before. And therefore, in this case, I know very well that if we were to look at maybe selling aspect or rather maybe flowers, I know very well that flowers during Valentine's, flowers will be sold a lot because it is a season. That is high season. There will be a probably period of low season whereby in that case they can't be sold, or rather even if we are selling them, it won't be that much. And there's that period where we can say that the environment is moderate. So based on the past experience, I know very well that the probability of me selling flowers during Valentine's season is so high. So I'll give it a probability of say like 0.5 or 0.6. The probability of me selling these flowers maybe in January, maybe in that case, people have come out of festive seasons. In that case, probably, as they normally term it, as January effect, right? At this point, January effect, that is to say, we spend so much during festive seasons that January we don't have enough cash to maybe move on. So you'll find that during January, I won't be selling these items, flowers much. So that is a low aspect of our period. Maybe I'll give it a probability of say like 0.2. And maybe during the period between maybe March towards August thereabout, I'll be having this probability, moderate environment. So based on the past experience, I can be able to allocate probability on these states of nature. And that is what you're talking about, environment of risk. As much as I'm not sure how much am I going to sell, but I can attach probability based on the past experience. So basically this is what you're terming it as what? Environment of risk, which is also very important. Now environment number 4, in this case we're talking about environment of competition. Number 4, we're talking about environment of competition, environment of competition. So looking at this environment of competition, my good students, a good example, take for example, let me just mention the name of the companies. I'm not doing the advert for them. I'm talking about, say, Safaricom, and I'm also talking about Airtel. So I'm having this telecommunication aspect of course, telecommunication business. So you'll find that in this case, Safaricom, they have come up with a certain product. And in this case, Airtel maybe will want to counter that. So you'll find that at this point, if Airtel will be making a decision of coming up with almost the same product, this will be purely because Safaricom has come up with that product. So in this case, you'll find that I'm making a decision under the environment of competition, or if it is pricing. And that's why you'll find that probably Safaricom, they'll come up with a certain data package. Within no time, Airtel will also come with a certain data package. So in this case, I'm making decision because my competitor is doing this and this. Other good example, say for example, whenever we're talking about these online classes, maybe you're having Mdarasa and you're having Udemy, right? You're having Mdarasa and you're having Udemy somewhere, right? So Mdarasa and Udemy, in this case, you'll find that Mdarasa will want to take a certain decision of maybe making sure that their students are interacting with their lecturers just within the app, which probably I've seen this fault that maybe these other competitor, they don't have. So therefore you'll find that in this case, I'll be making certain decision because of what? I'm basing it on the competitor. So all these are the environment of decision, or rather environment of competition, which you'll find many a times also businesses will also found themselves in such same environment. And making this decision will purely depend with who, or rather with the competition. So you'll find that, or their competitors, you'll find that on this case, basically, these are what we need to know. And you'll realize that Mwalimu is not dictating these notes for us. Mwalimu is giving us the points. Because I know the moment you've understood the concept clearly, when I've explained decision of uncertainty, when I've explained decision of certainty, when I've explained decision of competition and decision of risk, in this case, you can clearly put it on paper the way you've gotten it right. Because the good thing with leadership and management, my good student, is always upon us just to reason beyond the four walls. Don't cram. Don't make a mistake of cramming, because if you cram, you'll be messing a lot. You'll be messing big time. So that's why you'll find that if you've clearly noted, Mwalimu will give us a point and explain, but he will not dictate the notes for us. Mwalimu is not dictating the notes for us simply because in this case he believes that the moment you have the concept right, the moment you are viewing this video right now, you can as well, the moment you can put it on paper the way you've understood it, because of course level of understanding and also way of understanding is different from all of us, but the concept will just be the same. And this is what Mwalimu is training us. Don't cram. That is what I'm insisting kindly for leadership and management. Don't cram, and you'll be in a very, very good position. So to this point, guys, I want you to meet me in the next session whereby we are going to handle a whole different concept. And as I mentioned earlier on, there are some subtopics that we've not provided the videos, because we believe that these subtopics, you can be able to go through them and understand very well. What we provided are very brief, short, understandable notes, which if you go through them, it will be very, very easy for you to understand. So in our next class, my good students, let us meet. And in our next class, we'll be introducing a new chapter. Should be chapter 9, I think. So to this point, thank you so much, and let us meet in the next session. Thank you.